All right. Quick check. Our TRs are straight. We're good. We're good. Because we're moving up to the next speaker, and we will be moving along in the field of machine learning. Our next speaker, Ariadna, is a machine learning developer at Emergn and has 3+ years of experience working on ML projects, doing data analysis and visualization, building forecasting models, and usable prototypes. And in her talk today, she will give her perspective on what's it like to be a woman in data science, which qualities are important to work in research and development, and give advice to those who are intrigued by machine learning, artificial intelligence, but unsure if it is the right fit for you. Our next talk is Life Lessons from Data Science, and I'm happy to welcome on stage our next speaker.
Hi, everyone. So, as mentioned, I'm Ariadna Kramkovska, a machine learning developer from Emergn. And hopefully most of you already know at least the basics of what it could be. But basically, yeah, I cover most of the stages of working with data, starting from gathering data, then business understanding, then data visualization, preparation, analysis, and wrangling, to building models and using those in productions. And while my experience might not be as year-lengthy as some of the other contestants, I also would think that my experience would be a good lesson to some of those who are only just getting started. Hopefully, it inspires all of you, and I hope I can give some insights of what it has been for me. And yes, as mentioned, I have 3+ years working across different spheres, whether it be financial, insurance, electricals, technicals, and so on. I've done a lot of things, and I'd like to talk to you about those and what I think would be important for you to know. And I've noticed that most of the contestants have some timelines of what it was like for them, what their careers looked like. And sometimes it goes many, many years ago. But the fun thing is, maybe I'm younger than some of those, but even if we look back 20 years or so ago, it also makes sense. Oh no, sorry. It also makes sense that I ended up on this stage. You can see here that I'm dressed in my best formal gown at the time, and it's actually not my birthday. It's a very specific holiday where I got my first computer, and it was a very, very big deal for me. It was so much fun that I remember when my mom came home and told me that, hey, we're going to get a new computer. I was sitting on the swing. I was about 5 or 6 years, and I was so happy. I was swinging, and then I hit my head on the floor. So yeah, I think it makes sense that I ended up here in IT. But I will not just do a full biographical reading of what I've been through. But yes, my hypothesis was true. The interest in technology remains even after all these years. And I went to, after finishing school, I started going to University of Latvia for computer science and finished with bachelor science. And one thing I did is had to take an internship in some IT company. And then I chose Emergn. They offered multiple internship positions at the time, such as Java, JavaScript, DevOps. Some of those probably are familiar to you. But the reason I joined was a special ML internship one place. And the person talking about it was super intriguing because I saw the fire in his eyes. And I was like, yes, it really interested me too. I wanted to know what it really is like. So that's how I ended up in machine learning lab. I joined at the time when we were just getting started. We had a few people with very bright minds and an ambition to achieve great things. And while we didn't have a lot of clients that knew us beforehand, we just started to work in an approach where, okay, so you have data and we have expertise, so maybe we can agree on something, we can experiment on your data and then see how it goes. And after years of trying, we established a team that had a great experience and a lot of knowledge. And we covered all those core competencies listed on the left, with dealing with data, with how to achieve great things, how to analyze, and how to ask the right questions to achieve the greatest value. But standing right here, I didn't really think at the start that I would be where I am, because when I joined, it kind of seemed something like this. And I'm not going to explain what the formula means because I don't know. It's something particle physics related, very complicated. But I remember when I was going to my first day, I was sitting in a bus and frantically Googling from machine learning articles and trying to jam them all in my memory. Like, oh my God, what if they ask me what this model means and I'm not sure what the algorithm is? But it's still an internship, so that's to be expected. The greatest thing is the attitude. But yeah, it doesn't really make sense, but your brain plays tricks on you sometimes. So that's not really how it went. And, well, yes, sometimes data science really is complex. It's probably not as complex as you think in the start. And how it made the whole process of learning easier is to breaking it up in a process that involves 3 stages: learning, trying, and applying. And then you iterate, because in this field, the learning part never really stops. What was once state of the art in years becomes outdated. And that's the norm. It's to be expected. So from the first day I started there, I took with the learning. I remember going through my first EDX course that was based by Microsoft. It was, I think, called Python for Data Science. I was very, very interested because it was quite interactive, but also had videos to learn the theory, and it had some interactive notebooks where I could play and cover the basics of what data science is. And I remember my assigned mentor, I came up to him during the first day with the first completed notebook, and I was like, oh my God, look, the data is clean now. This is so cool. It's really happening. And he was like, haha, yeah, enjoy it while you can. He didn't say that, but yeah, it's not the funnest part, but the whole point is that it's really fun to get enjoyment from the simpler things. And while in reality, it's really sometimes not the most important parts that you have to do more often, but it's still a part of the job and you make peace with it. And then, after you learn, you try to get your hands-on experience. So what works for me the best is going through some case studies, going through interactive exercises that are available on many platforms. Especially it's true for software development, but for data science as well. COMM really works, and other platforms. And then, when you already have some experience, it will be a lot easier to apply them in actual work. When you know, you already have experience from these 3 parts, you try to apply the knowledge you have in real work, and then that real work that's concluded is already a new experience for you. So then you learn new things, and it's quite easier to already know and to learn more things as you go, as you already have some previous knowledge. And And with this principle in mind, I have actually achieved very nice things that I didn't even think were possible at the beginning. Starting from some time series models that you can see on the upper left, we try to forecast the electricity consumptions with wildly different patterns across the time, and trying to figure out the best way and what would be the most valuable thing for the clients, to entity extraction and natural language processing, which really is a part of interest for me at the moment. I just really enjoy how the linguistics and the context of the domain really flows with the analysis that machine learning gives us. And computer vision that you've all probably seen at one point or another, maybe some facial recognition for security purposes, or states of the objects. Maybe you need to know whether some cases were opened or not at what points in time to log and show them to the clients. The possibilities are endless. And it's really fun to get to know all the different businesses that need your help and how machine learning really helps those in need. And first of all, I'd like to share my experience to what has actually helps in research, what would be those qualities that you need to be successful. And what I would like to tell you this is, at the beginning, I really thought that the most important part of focus would be the technical knowledge. So you sit there, you learn math, you learn data, you learn science, you learn stats, and you become very successful at it. And that's the most important part, and you're going to be great. But that's not necessarily true. Yes, of course, you need technical knowledge, and you need to learn many, many things, which are sometimes complicated. But it's not going to be the most important in the end. If you can't communicate with the customer and the team well, it's going to be a struggle for you to collaborate. And when you deal with the research by yourself, the qualities that really help is patience. Might sound a bit dramatic when it's the first thing I mention, but I do feel like it's important because sometimes you need to dig in really deep to get that value and to realize what's the problem, how to solve it, maybe go through many hypotheses before you figure out the right way. And it's part of the norm. It's to be expected. You just have to keep that in mind and not get overwhelmed with the times and the effort that you need to put in. Then also what helps is creativity. I think it applies to life in general, not data science, just data science. But you have to be sort of creative to figure out what would be the possible solution to this, how to creatively achieve the goals that you need. And sometimes data is art itself. Here you can see a picture that is hanging in a hallway next to our office. And it's actually a graph from Power BI that was made with the data from one of our previous projects. But looking from apart and not knowing that machine learning lab sits here, I think I could tell that maybe that's just some art piece. Very nice, colorful, great, abstract. So yeah, it really helps to be creative and see and fill in the gaps. And then also connected to creativity is an open mind. As I mentioned, some hypotheses will fail, and your assumptions that you thought were true are not going to be true, actually. So you need to make sure that you are willing to learn, and that sometimes you're going to be wrong, but eventually you're going to come to a conclusion. And what really helped me along my way was getting to know my learning style and how I actually learn best. So I always thought that my auditory processing was not so good because when I did some, for example, exams in school and I had to listen, it was always my worst part. I just couldn't keep the information in. So when I got recommendations of some data science podcasts, machine learning, maybe some stuff that's narrated, I just figured out that it's not the way for me to learn. I'm just getting frustrated, and it's not the way my brain processes things and how I get to retain knowledge. So what works for me the best would be either some videos with subtitles and actual examples on the whiteboard, because I just don't like when it's just straight up monotonous talking like this, and you're just getting lost in the topic after 2 minutes. Or also, which is great because there's a lot of it, is, as I mentioned, some interactive exercises where you get to practice hands-on. And, and again, continuing, what would be the qualities of a data scientist that I think are the most important is, this slide is influenced by the phrase that I see going around mostly by recruiters is hire for attitude, not the skills. And I completely agree, because tech skills can be learned. Okay, you're not going to fill in a lead position with a person with no industry experience, but if there is a technical skill or two missing, it's probably not at the end of the world if you see that the person is willing to learn and willing to improve themselves, and how they collaborate with the team will make a greater impact than the person who thinks they know it all and just will stop learning at one point. So I think that a perfect data scientist would be a person that believes firmly in lifelong learning, because in this field it never really stops. It's a person who is determined because they know that the truth is out there somewhere, as you know by the quotes, and he is willing to find it, no matter what the cost. And also detail-oriented, because sometimes those nuances that might seem minor and you think, oh, I already know the bigger picture, it's fine, I can assume that this works this way, might actually prove wrong, and it might break break the project. And coming back to the topic of this panel, I would like to talk about about ethics and diversity. So data science is not just some techie field where you just pump out the data in and expect good results, but you also have to think about the repercussions that your work has. It's not just stats and tech. So it starts with some minuscule things like if we recommend a person who has already taken a Big Mac, some more fries and ice cream and Fanta, maybe it's also kind of an ethical issue that you're leading a person to an unhealthy lifestyle, but most people don't think about that. And also in obvious cases where it comes to security reasons, maybe in the airports, there are some systems that scan for potential intruders, potential dangerous people, and it's also a very, very gray zone because we're not exactly sure if it's right to divide the people like this. So how do we recognize where those parts are, and how do we prevent those biases from happening? To me, I think the most important part is having diverse people in your team. Those people who have lived different experiences, they have different perspectives on things. And what one person knows, the other doesn't. And by collaborating, they really achieve the greatest value in all this, because they know what others don't. And I remember I've read an article that really stuck with me a few years ago when I was just getting started, is that basically a machine learning model that was connected to eugenics, because the data was very, very biased. It was quite an old study, so it was biased towards recognizing the dangerous people to people of different races, as you can imagine. And that's also something you need to think about, that biased data gives biased results. So in order to prevent that, you really need to think about the repercussions and to make sure the people that are working here all chip in and think about what would be the best point to do this. Lastly, so I'm sure that many people have heard about imposter syndrome. Many of those have been battling it at least once in their time. My stats show that at least 58% of tech employees experienced it at least once. But I'd like to make a check. Who in the audience has experienced imposter syndrome at least once? Great, at least 5 hands. That's probably not 58%, but that's pretty close. We'll assume that people really struggle with thinking, am I really smart? Did I really make that experience? Or am I just fooling everybody? But the phrase that keeps me personally going is, it doesn't get easier, you just get better. You learn every day. That's true with life, that's true with IT, that's true with data science. You just have to keep at it and never give up, as cliche as it sounds. And coming back to this panel, it's also a fact that imposter syndrome hits women and women of color harder, because sometimes those minor comments that we've probably heard during our lives really keep themselves in here, and in times of worry, they tend to come back and think like, oh no, maybe they were really right, maybe I am not worth it. But I am battling imposter syndrome standing on this stage, but I know that I can get through it because I have the attitude and I'm willing to learn and get better at things that I'm not really sure of right now. Think of it as a bridge. So you know you want to do a project, or you want to learn a sphere that's quite new to you, and it feels like you are standing on one side of the bridge and the other side of the bridge is right here. and the bridge is not built yet. Or maybe there it is, but there are quite a few blocks missing, so you're not willing to just take the leap, and it seems really scary. But if you figure out the way how to separate the building of that bridge so that step by step you have more and more confidence to taking the next step, so maybe you know that you need to learn thing A, but it's quite big and it seems overwhelming, and you just try to put it off and not do it at all and just don't progress at all. That maybe that thing A is actually thing A, B, or C, and if you learn that new thing A, which is quite smaller, you're gonna achieve more, and it's not as scary as you thought before. So there are many approaches to this and how to battle the gaps in your knowledge. But if you think that, if you've ever thought that data science would be interesting for you, but it seems quite overwhelming, difficult, or that you need to know it all, why not just try? I think it's going to be easy for you if you keep those things in mind, and those overwhelming things can be divided, and they're just manageable after you learn some and gain some experience. And if my words don't inspire you, then maybe you should go into external factors. There are many women data scientists who have made a big difference. Even the first software programmer, Ada Lovelace, is also a woman. So you can go there and check up and see that you really can succeed, and it's not as hard as you might think it is. So if anyone has any questions, I'd like to answer them, and thank you for your attention.